What would happen if you stopped trying to change the outside world and started coming home to yourself? Welcome back to Her Purpose, the podcast where we explore the moments that wake us up to who we really are and what we're meant to do. In today's episode, I am sitting down with Madison Creel, founder of Journey to Om, transformational coach, speaker, and breathwork guide who helps others reconnect with their soul through deep inner healing. Madison shares her story of shifting from a conventional career path to answering a deeper call, one that has led her to uncover the power of energetics, the subconscious mind, and how unhealed wounds shape our entire lives. She breaks down the difference between numbing and healing, talks about the role of radical awareness, and how we stop giving our power away. If you've ever felt like there was something more, something missing, or that you're meant to live a more aligned and meaningful life, this conversation will light a fire in your soul. I have so many questions. I know you're doing a few different things, but your main focus is Journey to Om. And I want you just to talk a little bit about just what you're doing with people through the work that you're doing.
Yeah. So with Journey to Om is my coaching business. I do speaking events, workshops, and breathwork classes on healing, inner healing. So with the premise that when we come onto this earth, because of our conditioning, the way that we're raised, the influences that we have growing up, we tend to become disconnected from the truth of who we are, the real you, underneath all of the roles you play, all the negative beliefs, all of the things that you've acquired your whole life. So these wounds, these parts of you that are not you, that are not your soul. So we are a soul having a human experience. And so when we take that into consideration, we are not just our humanness. We are not just what we can see. And we've all experienced this to some degree of feeling like there's something more, whether this is it's our intuition, whether it's any of our senses that are outside of our five senses, right? This inspiration or this flow state, this state that you're in. You're like, okay, everything's just flowing to me. I get it. These ideas are coming. When your soul is able to kind of flow out of you. So with Journey to Om, it is really a journey back home to yourself, a journey back home to the truth of who you are outside of all of your subconscious beliefs, programs, everything that you've acquired that separates you from that. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, through the workshops, everything, that's my goal.
That's amazing. So I want to dive into how we arrived to that, but I want to go back first. So growing up, what did you think you were going to do for work?
I wanted to be an elementary school teacher because that's just all I knew. I feel like we only really see what we're exposed to. So my dad was a teacher, obviously we're surrounded by teachers growing up when we're in education. I thought that was kind of my only option because I liked working with kids. But at some point I realized when I started kind of looking at the college classes, there was something within me, and this is kind of where we go into like the intuition, that felt like it wasn't quite right. And so I kind of dabbled in psychology too, because I got a bachelor's into psychology as well, but I didn't end up pursuing it further. And I'll kind of touch on that too, because I wanted to understand humans better. I wanted to understand why we do what we do, why we say the things that we do, and what makes up like our humanness.
Where did that curiosity come from? Because in my experience, there's some experience that opens us up to, I need to understand what's happening here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I didn't have anything really big or that happened that was like, wow, like this needs to happen. I need to change. It was more just listening to that inner voice of this is what I'm interested in, and this is what kind of direction I want to go. Outside of being kind of told what you should do or what you should be. or how you should act. And I think that a lot of us are raised that way, especially the older generations, of kind of this should be your life. This you fall into this box and you need to do these certain things, and act a certain way in order to get the recognition, in order to get the affirmation, in order to get this worth. And so when we're conditioned to be what other people want from us, we often ignore the part of us that is kind of guiding us into more of like our soul's purpose, or where we truly feel like we need to be. And so I think that I was just kind of cut off from that for a while, just because I felt kind of like I was really dependent on other people and their acknowledgement, and wanting to be liked and wanting to be seen and valued. And so when I kind of started dissolving that, is when I was able to really tap into, okay, what is it that I feel like I'm drawn to? What does it feel like within me that I'm more passionate about? And that's kind of when I started wanting to look a little bit deeper, but I hadn't quite got there when I was in school. I feel like as we age, I know that there's certain times in our life that we start to realize certain things and start to kind of come out of that shell of like, okay, I can kind of start to make my own life. I can start to make my own decisions. And so it's been a process. It wasn't like a flip of the switch, I'm going a whole different direction. It was a slow process of like really kind of battling myself of like, okay, I kind of want to do this, but part of me feels a little bit like weird and bad, or like I need to like fall into this certain pattern, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So going to school to be a teacher, you went to school to be a teacher for a while. At some point you decided, I don't want to continue, or did you finish school to be a teacher?
I ended up transitioning into speech therapy. But that was kind of along the same line. So I still do speech therapy a couple days a week. But I'd say my turning point was when I was graduating in my master's. And I was doing my defense, and it was like the last month of school, and I was just super stressed, and it was COVID time too. So much going on, but something sparked within me that really pushed me to exploring deeper things. Like, what is this existence all about? Why are we here?
Do you remember anything outwardly? It was all an inward experience.
I mean, I had a lot going on. I had a lot of stressful things at that time, with like deaths and trouble with just with extra pressure with school. And I was also a single mom, pregnant in grad school. I had a lot going on, but I do feel like, I mean, people can have a lot going on but still choose to live the same life. I feel like you can have two different people that are having the same experiences, but unless you choose something different, unless you choose to explore yourself deeper, you can continue living life. Nothing will really change, right? So you can have a pivotal moment in your life, but you still have to choose something more. You still have to choose something different. So I do feel like that piece was really just like a deeper part of me that was like, I need to like learn more. I need to dive into this.
Yeah, and usually that happens because you see someone else in the world living differently than what you saw growing up. Like we witness our parents growing up one way, and then we're exposed to another way of living, another way of doing life, another way of thinking that opens up what's possible. So was there anything like that happened?
I'd say the podcasts I was listening to, the books that I was reading, the information I was gathering. There were a couple people, but I'd say it was like my own like inner guidance showing me these things. There wasn't like, at that time when I was in grad school, it was just this calling of, okay, I need to find something more. But I wouldn't say that there was somebody that walked in my life and was like, this is how I'm living. You need to live like me. It was like my own like inner guidance that was like, okay, listen to this podcast, or like read this book. Or I was in a soaking up information mode. I know we go through waves where it's like, okay, I just I just need to learn everything. I just need to like understand. I need to go. And then we go through waves of like integration. But at that point, I was just like, something was guiding me to really dive into these topics.
And was there any part of you that was resistant to that growth process?
I mean, over the last 4 years, it's been there definitely has been. I wouldn't say at that time because I was just me because it was COVID. So I was very like, it was me and my little sister and then my daughter. We were in Hawaii for like 2 months by ourselves because we were kind of stranded there. So that's kind of
why. What happened? How were you stranded in Hawaii?
Because of the quarantine. So I was visiting my mom in Hawaii and
How old were you at the time?
20, 28, I think. Okay. 27.
And so you went back to school long after graduating high school.
So I graduated high school. I did my bachelor's. I got a double bachelor's in psychology and then speech language pathology. I took a year, went to Thailand and taught English, and then came back and then I did my master's.
I see. Okay.
Yeah. And it took me a little bit. It took me a little longer because I was pregnant. So I had to like learn how to navigate getting a master as well, like being a single mom. And so that was kind of challenging, but
that's really challenging.
Yeah.
Now, so you go to Hawaii, you go to visit your mom, you're in the middle of doing your master's. Obviously, I'm assuming classes all transitioned online.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Exactly. And so I had the option to go back. Like, I think there was like, you need to buy a ticket now to go back. But I was like, you know what? There's not really any reason for me to go back. So I was like, may as well just quarantine here. And so it was a really special time. Almost like everything aligned in a sense of like, this is kind of where it, obviously being in Hawaii for 2 months with, being isn't like too bad of a situation, but it all happened to work out. It was a really good time for just like, finishing a master's, spending time with my daughter, and also just like this deep self-exploration time that all just kind of like got landed on me all at once. And so that point was when I was like kind of shifted into wanting to like try and find and figure out something deeper.
So you're on this journey learning about yourself. And at this point, you're just thinking, how do I understand myself better? Mm-hmm. At what point did you realize I want to do this in the world? I want to share this with the world. I want to impact the world with what I've now learned.
So a couple years after that, let's start. Like I've always felt drawn to want to help people. I feel like there's certain humans, I feel like a lot of people just feel this connection to want to help people, want to make their lives better. I just didn't know what kind of outlet. And so felt like that with speech therapy for a little bit. And then, as I mentioned to you earlier, it just felt like I wasn't able to really give as much as I could give by doing that. So like, for example, when I was working with the elementary school kids, their backgrounds and like their home life and the way that they were being treated at home was horrific. And I was
a low income school district, low income.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I was up in Olympia. So there's definitely like a good portion of kids that were low income. Mm-hmm. But I just felt like I wasn't helping them in the way that I could, because I'd be working with them on articulation, on like their R's and L's and trying to, say their words correctly, but, they're not getting their needs met at home. They're not getting treated well by their parents. And so there's all this social emotional issues that come with their home setting. And so, and it's almost inhibits them from even learning. And so I felt like I was just, okay, I'm just addressing this surface layer right here, but there's so much more going on. So I felt like I was just wasting both of our times. And I wanted to be able to offer them something that was more, okay, let's address this root issue. What's actually going on? And that was not really in my scope of practice. And so in the same sense, when I was working with the high schoolers, just I was there for just 6 months because I was filling in for somebody. And within that 6 months, 2 of my 11 students had told me that they were thinking of committing suicide. And so it's just like, why am I sitting here working on grammar when we have so much deeper problems and there's so much like rooted in this hurt and pain and unprocessed emotions and lack of education on how to process and feel and move through and be there and support yourself, because the truth is that we don't always have people there to support us. And obviously we know that, these kids, the parents might not know how to do that, and they might be the cause of a lot of their pain and suffering. Even as teachers, like, they have 30 to 100 other kids. It's hard to create almost like a dependency on another person. Or like, they have counselors, but like one counselor for 500 students, they do their best, but what was missing is just this education and this support and being able to support themselves through their emotional pain. And so where that shift was for me is just like, I need to find a way to help people, and that's actually addressing the root cause and root issue. Because if they were able to heal themselves in that way, they could show up to school, they could show up to their life, they could move through any situation, really, knowing that they have the power to do that. And so from there, I had listened to a podcast where I found my mentor. Her name's Rachel Fiore. And she's the CEO and owner of Masters of Self University. This is where I received all my training. And we focus on inner healing. So being able to heal all the parts of yourself that are less than loving, that are keeping you from really living your life to your truest potential, that are really keeping you from living your life in alignment with the truth of who you are, with your soul. And what those are false beliefs that you've created within yourself from the way that you were raised and your influences, like I was talking about earlier, from your parents, or situations that happened where you, as a child, you just feel like everything's about you, because you're coming into this world, you're trying to figure out your place in it, you're trying to figure out, what is this life? How do I navigate in this? And so everything that happens, you almost internalize it as it's your fault, or there's something wrong with you. And so it could be something that's completely unrelated to you, and you internalize it as, okay, I'm not wanted right now, or I'm not worthy, or I'm
unlovable.
Yeah, right. All these wounds. And I feel like we hear all this stuff in media, we hear it in like therapy, but what we educate and train people on is energy. So we can say these things all we want, but unless we connect to the energy of it, we can't actually heal it. And so we can go to therapy and realize, like, okay, feel like I'm unlovable, or I feel like I'm not good enough, right? I'm not good enough. But we are saying it in our mind, and we understand it, but it almost like keeps us there, because in order to heal it, we need to feel it. We need to feel that, honor it, love it. And as we do that, we bring up that frequency. So,
and even grieve the experience that was.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, whatever happens to come up, you could be going through that experience, feeling it, and really paying attention to the energy that's showing up. And so we really focus on psychoenergetics, just like understanding energy, interpreting subtle energies. So when you're triggered, which we're triggered all throughout the day, realizing that it's not, becoming conscious of it. So really growing your awareness, because if you're not conscious of it, if you're not conscious of all the ways that you're triggered, you're not conscious of the ways that you're reacting, the things that you're saying, the decisions that you're making, the emotions that you're having. A lot of times when you're not conscious of it, you can't change it. You can't do anything about it. And so really it's like just deep work and understanding of energetics, and then how to work with energy, how to read people's energy. Because as coaches, we listen to what people are saying, but we feel the energy of it. So they could say like 2 sentences, but we feel the energy. Okay, there's this one word. let's stop you there. We don't listen to you for an hour, talk about what's going on. We stop you, we go deeper into the energy that's presenting itself. So I always give an example because we all feel energy. We can feel the energy of a room when we walk in and it's just like really icky, right? It's just like really like kind of like you can feel that people are judging and it's like it doesn't feel good. And you feel the energy of a room when people are like laughing and joyful and we're just so cut off from that meter almost because we're not really trained. We're trained in this life to become disconnected from that part of us, from that sensitivity. Mm-hmm. And so when we're able to feel and interpret energies, we can understand ourselves so much more. And then we can also understand other people on a whole other level, which also brought in my like love for understanding humans and, why we are the way we are.
I want to go back because you mentioned doing psychology classes in college and you wanted to talk about something, but I don't think we touched on it. And I'm assuming that there's something connected there.
Yeah. So all the approaches that we learned and like the theories and like the treatment approaches we learned in college at the time, it was interesting to me, but I felt like there was something missing. And so there was just another thing, like listening to your own intuition, listening to your own inner guidance. There was something that I was like, okay, I don't really want to pursue this in this way because I felt like there was some sort of like, I don't know, it's like almost like they're trying to keep you in a box or like so rigid or like this, I don't know how to explain it, but it's just, there's something that in it that's like
very clinical.
Yeah, exactly. And very like, rigid, just like this person this way, they're diagnosed with this and this is what they need or whatever. And so with this approach, it's like, okay, I now feel what I wasn't feeling in the traditional like psychology approach and clinical approach to mental health, is that there's very little training on reading and interpreting energies and taking people deeper and creating this deeper relationship with yourself and your own inner power and not creating a dependency on things outside of you, like drugs, or pharmaceuticals or your own therapist, or this dependency of like, oh, I need to go to the gym right now so I can release my stress, or I need to do this thing, or I need to do like anything outside of you is creating powerlessness within yourself. And so guiding people to connect to their own inner power for true transformation, but that was the biggest thing. So you don't need anything outside of you. You only need yourself in order to truly transform and transmute yourself into a more healed version of yourself.
Yeah. So when you were working with these kids and really recognizing we have way larger problems than grammar, did you see yourself working with children down the road, or did you want to focus more on adults, or do you work with both?
Down the road, I do see myself working with children. And honestly, it's just a collective. It's just like everybody. Everybody needs to be healing themselves, really, and everybody needs these tools, and this education. And so adults, because they've gotten to a point where we've been through all the phase, and you're self-reflecting. You're like, some people just need to kind of hit rock bottom before they're like, okay, I need something different. Because a lot of times, until you reach that point, you'll just fall into the same patterns and the same cycles, and because of the way you were conditioned. And I make this point too, that we are like living 95% on our subconscious. So all of the programs that we've learned, all of the conditioning that we've had since we were younger, that's not out of our conscious mind and not out of our conscious decision. That's only 5%. And so if we're unconsciously kind of going throughout our lives, going through day to day, the subconscious is taking over 95% of our decisions and what we're doing. And so being able to grow that awareness and become more conscious of the 95%, change and heal that 95% to become what it is we want to what it is we want to live aligned with. But to your point of wanting to work with children, I want to create a program for kids. I'm mostly like working with teachers, because the teachers can then help incorporate this emotional healing in space for these children, because a lot of times they don't have the tools either. But usually it's not till we're adults that we take the initiative and want to heal what it is that's been created within us. But if we can start bringing this to kids and helping them learn how to navigate and move through their pain, because when we don't heal the pain that's within us, when we're conditioned to think that we're powerless to our pain, it becomes trapped within us. And then it keeps getting re-triggered throughout our entire life. So that feeling that we got, that belief that we have, that this fear, let's say fear of abandonment, when maybe our mom just worked a lot. Maybe and every time she left, oh, she's leaving me again. It could be anything as simple as that. We just developed this fear of abandonment, which feels really icky in our bodies.
Life or death.
Right. Exactly. Yep. And so that wound will continue to keep getting triggered throughout your life, whether it's like, going through in a relationship and someone's not texting you back as much and you're like, okay, oh my God, they're going to leave me. It could be anything, that same like fear, that same feeling. It's like, why am I reacting this way? Because someone's just not texting me back for, a couple or whatever, how long it is. It could be as a simple thing like that triggers this fear of, oh my God, he's going to leave me. Oh my God, like I'm not worth this. I'm not lovable. It could be any of those things. And so when children experience this and create this belief and they don't know how to process it and they don't know how to love themselves through it, it will continue to be trapped. And so it's almost like the chicken or the egg thing. It's like, okay, we need to address it as adults, but also it's created when we are children. So it's like we need to be able to do both. So eventually I want to create a program for kids, but it's still kind of in the works.
Well, and it's really tough because we can't change people that don't want to change. And really the pain of staying the same has to be worse than the pain of changing for us to actually change. And that doesn't typically happen in childhood. So what is happening in childhood, children don't even understand it enough to know that it's happening to change it. And so working with a parent and adults to reprogram the way that we interact with our children, and not that there's any way to ever, because when we have these feelings, it's 50% what happened and it's 50% the story that we make it mean. What do we make that experience mean about us, ourselves, our worth? And so even parents that have 100% good intentions, there can be circumstances outside of their control that children will create these stories and then carry them into adulthood, and they won't challenge those stories until they get to that space where I am so tired of living this life in this way that I'm continually looking for evidence that these stories I'm committed to are true. I want to believe different stories, right? And you can't force a person to want to challenge those until they're ready.
Right. And so with kids, if you teach them just the skills to process it as it comes. So how I talked about, okay, it's happening, they're creating this false belief, like you said, like they're creating a story from the interaction that happened or the situation that happened. It doesn't have to become a wound. When it's created, if you teach them how to open their heart, to feel, to love themselves, connect to their own inner power, love themselves through it, it doesn't need to become a wound. But what the issue is that as we're growing up and we become adults, we were never taught that. And so everything becomes stored because we're running away from our emotional pain because we feel like we're powerless to it. So every instance that we're experiencing pain, we are grabbing our phone, we're going to the fridge, we are grabbing a drink, we're dialing up our friend to like try and find some way to distract ourselves, or we're numbing out, we're turning on the TV. When we're not addressing the pain that's coming up, it comes up and then it gets pushed back down and it stays in your system. And so it's just education on how energy actually works it's changed my life really, truly, and brought so much clarity of like, okay, wow, like this is why this is happening, or this is why this happened. Like, it's just, yeah, it's wild.
Do you have any specific memories or experiences that you now look back on and you see them as they were preparation for where you are now?
Gosh, honestly, ever since I learned kind of the work, this like inner healing work, I feel like everything that's happened to us, it's kind of created where we are now, and it's almost been needed. So like, even though we look back and we're like, oh man, for me, for an example, I have a big like people pleasing like wound of like I need to be liked because I have low self-worth. I've been working on that. So it's gotten a lot better, but um with that, I it's almost like you need to go through the pain in order to realize how powerful you are to heal it and to move out of it. You see people who, let's say they have everything handed to them. They live a very, like, they just don't have to lift a finger. They don't go through any adversity. Um, there is, there's a lack of depth, when you aren't able to go deeper within yourself. It's almost like if you're not ever going to lift a weight, you're never going to get stronger. You're going to stay very weak. And so the people who have gone to the depths of their own pain and grown out of it and healed, you see and feel their resilience. You see and feel the power that they have. And so you don't actually know your power unless you're kind of pushed and moved to step into it. And we aren't really pushed and moved to step into our power unless we have a reason to, unless we're just kind of sick and tired of all the suffering and wanting something different for our lives.
Would you say that you feel most fulfilled when you're helping others on that journey of overcoming people pleasing?
Honestly, people pleasing is just a small little piece of it because it's easier to guide and help people through things that you have gone through yourself and something that you've experienced. And so my specific set of conditioning and wounding is the people pleasing and also disassociation, like disconnection, because
Explain that for someone listening that does not understand what disassociation is.
Yeah, so it's when you're feeling an intense emotional feeling or painful thing, and you disconnect from it. So you disconnect from your emotional body. This is something that has been in my family generation after generation, and it's it kind of filters and you like learn from the people around you. And so tapping into my feelings, tapping into those deeper parts of me, that has been a huge, huge kind of path for me. And so helping people who struggle with the disassociation.
I want you to talk a little bit about the behaviors that indicate someone is disassociating, so that someone that's listening that has no idea still, like what happens when you're experiencing extreme pain, and what are the behaviors that a person disassociating does to escape that pain.
Yeah. So there's experiencing pain and there's just avoiding it. And so that's more like you can feel it and you're just trying to push it away. When you disassociate, you completely sever that connection with your emotional body. So sometimes this might be seen as like mild forms of depression where I feel numb. I feel nothing. I'm looking at this thing right now and I don't feel anything. And so it's a difference than just the avoiding or pushing away. It's I'm going through this and almost like that, the trauma responses of like the fight, flight, and freeze. It's almost like a freeze of like, I can't feel anything. So you might notice yourself, it's almost like that numbness or like that going through life and everything just feels kind of dull. You're not really, nothing's really like passionate for you. Nothing's really like calling you, or when you're interacting with like a child or your partner and you're just, it's just like this feeling of just nothingness. And so that's like an extreme version. But it's all different levels. So you could be feeling mildly.
What you were talking about, the subconscious mind is doing this because it believes it has to keep you safe. It's not a conscious thing that we're choosing to do. It's a subconscious thing.
Exactly. Yep. So it's your learned behavior. It's something that you've learned to do because at some point in your childhood, you realized I cannot keep feeling the depth of pain that I'm feeling right now. So it's easier for me to just shut it off. Which as we grow older, it's just another layer that you have to go through before you can get to the pain. But everybody, copes with pain in different ways. Some people on the other side of the spectrum, some people get lost in it. Some people cannot not feel it. So they have to feel it. And so they just get like almost over like perseverate, and they get lost in like the pain, and they attach to it. And
Almost for identity.
right. Yeah. So they might attach to it, becomes who they are. And I feel like that's kind of a issue with our current mental health industry, is that we like to give out labels and identities, and we also see a wave of, you know, with the good intentions, like we want to give support to people. We want people to know that that's okay. But with that, almost the other side of the pendulum being, okay, this is who I am. And when you attach to it, I am an anxious person. I am depression. I am these things. You can't heal out of something that you identify with. It becomes a part of you, becomes who you are. So we're almost validating. And then you also get a lot of like validation from people now that, like, going from like not having any education on emotions and not like feeling any emotions at all, to like nowadays it's like, okay, people are over identifying. People are like, okay, I need to attach to this. And I'm also getting a lot of validation from it. I'm also getting seen and heard like I never was. And so then that almost anchors in that belief even more that this is who you are, when truly it's not. It's just energy that needs to be healed, that needs to be transformed.
I see it with kids a lot more. The language that kids are using is interesting. I don't love it when I hear young kids talk about things like anxiety and depression.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that it's like the pendulum swing of, and you see these patterns in so many different generations and like different aspects of human life, of like, okay, this one was, okay, we're so disconnected from our emotions. We're not going to talk about emotions at all. We're going to sweep them under the rug. Everybody has to be tough. To now we're all on the whole other side of just like, I need to identify with this. And then it's almost like you're creating your own group, because everybody wants to be loved. Everybody wants to be accepted. Everybody wants to feel like they belong somewhere. That's like an innate like feeling that we, get.
Feeling of safety. Belonging means safety.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And so sometimes there's almost there's groups that you can see, and it's not necessarily like these groups are bad. What is the energy that you're coming from? Like, yes, have a group that's, aware of mental health, and like have a group that's supportive, and like that's great. But what is your energy? Are you there for support as you move through things that you can talk about? Or are you there because you've now attached with this identity, and you get all this validation that's anchoring in this victimhood?
I really strongly believe in therapy. I think everyone could benefit from some therapy at some point in their lives, but it almost reminds me of the whole, I guess, therapy can make you stay stuck in that and have it become almost a part of your identity and never transition out of who you are because of the past.
Yeah. Yeah, that's huge. I think there's a lot of different type of therapists. And so there's some really great ones out there that kind of understand the underlying energies and inner child wounds. But there's some that do kind of anchor in that story. And of course, someone's going to feel good. So I'm going to give you an example of energy really quick when it comes to this. So let's say you are really hurt in your relationship. Your husband's not showing you the love that you want to be like experiencing. So you feel unwanted, you feel unseen, you feel like he doesn't hear you. And so you go to your therapist and you're venting about this and you're talking about it. And you can feel that the person is in this energy of kind of blaming, of pointing fingers, of my life is horrible. It feels icky. It feels, I won't say icky. I want to say it feels powerless. It feels powerless. It feels weak. It feels everybody's out to get me. He doesn't like me. He needs to change this, And so when you have a therapist that's validating that and just, oh yes, then this energy loves it. This victim energy loves to be seen, to be heard, it's been wanting this validation from anybody that would listen, but you get it from your therapist. And so when you're validating this, when you're activated this in this frequency, it just anchors it in, because you realize, when I'm venting about this, when I'm talking about this, if I get attention and this feels good. So you can also do this with your friends, where you're like, he does this and he does that. And then you have your friends who are like, yeah, he sucks. He's the worst. And you're like, yeah. And it's like, because their energy is feeding yours and it just keeps it alive. So then you'll continue to kind of be a victim to your own life. And I want you to feel the difference of this. So the same situation, but you go to your therapist and you say, man, when my husband walks away when I'm talking to him, it makes me feel this. It triggers this feeling within me. And so let me take responsibility and heal this feeling that was just triggered by this person. Let me take responsibility for my own healing, seeing it as a detached observer. You're not lost in it. You're not lost in the victim. You're like, okay, I see this. He did this, or this is the situation, and I see this feeling, and I can feel it, and I can love myself through this, and I can rise higher and become more. And through that, you could, as you heal those parts of you, because you're healing them, because initially in the first example, you're just getting lost and it's going to be the same story over and over and over again. As you're healing, you begin to step more into your power. And the way that energy works is, as your husband starts to see you step into his power, step into your power, he will get triggered. She's not reacting the same way. She's not falling into these same programs that keep this kind of energetic circle matrix alive. So he might start to get triggered, or he might be like, wow, she's starting to feel pretty powerful. He might not be consciously aware of it, but subconsciously, there's something different about her. I need to step up. Or you might, because you're stepping into your power, you might be like, okay, I feel intuitively like I need to set a boundary here. But your boundary's not coming from wounding, because when you set boundaries from wounding, they're just weak. They don't have any foundation. You might go back on it. They might be coming from your own wounds. But when you step into your power and you've healed those parts of you that are showing up, you can set boundaries from power. And those are what will change your relationship. And so it's just that difference when it comes to therapy of like, are they just validating the woundedness and keeping you stuck? Or are they challenging you to connect to your inner power and to heal those parts of you that are keeping you down there, that are keeping you functioning at lower frequencies?
And something I was asked years ago is, what do you get out of being right about this?
Yeah, energetically, like and this could, so every situation, every person, it could be a different energy. So yeah, when you are right, what is it feeding? What wound, what frequency are you coming from? Because someone could be coming from, the solidness and they're connected to themselves. Someone could be coming from like, I need to prove a point because I need to be right, because I need to have control. When you understand energy and feel into your own frequencies, feel into your own what's happening within me, you can start to discern that. And when someone's on the true path of healing themselves, which ideally everybody would be your husband or yourself, instead of making that other person need to agree with you, you take responsibility for yourself. You're like, okay, what's showing up within me right now? Why do they need to agree with me? Why do I need to be right? So it could be a plethora of things. So it comes to understanding your own energies and your own frequencies as you're going about your day, saying things, needing things, reacting certain ways. It's like just radical self-awareness.
And really recognizing how much we are giving our power away when we need outside circumstances to be different.
Having that control, wanting to, and feeling, why do I need things to be a certain way? So there is so much you can learn about yourself if you just start reflecting. I need this person to show up like this. Why? I need them to show up like this because I feel unworthy. I need them to validate me. I need them to see me in that frequency, you feel the powerlessness, you feel the little child there. And so when let's say you do have someone that's validating you and seeing you, they are just feeding that little inner child wound. They're just feeding that child. So you see a lot of relationships, like codependent relationships, where energetically you feel like, okay, they're just feeding each other's wounds. It's like, I want to be loved, I want to be seen, I want to be accepted, I want to be nurtured, because a lot of our wounds are created from our parents. And so when we are creating wounds when we're 5 or 6 or 7 years old, we continue to show up like a 5, 6, 7-year-old in certain situations as adults. And we can feel that when we're in an argument. You're like, why are you acting like a 5-year-old right now? It's because that wound is
You literally are
being like a 5-year-old. And so it's so interesting. It makes life so interesting to just like reflect and see and interpret what's going on and feel the energy of, what are you bringing to this conversation? What are you bringing to this situation when you need it to be a certain way? And what do you do if it's not? How do you act? How do you respond? Do you shut down? Do you try to control even more? Do you blow up? Do you have anxiety? Are you stressed out? Do you have a panic attack? Why are you having a panic attack? You go deeper and deeper and deeper. And so when it comes to like certain approaches to inner healing and therapy, it's like, a lot of it's like, okay, how do you cope with this anxiety? How do you cope with once, this is happening? Or how do you make it so your life is a certain way, versus trying to, like, all of that's just trying to control the surface and cope with all of your wounds instead of actually healing them. Because if you heal them, you won't have to experience all that anymore. You'll feel more powerful. You'll feel like you can move through your life without constantly feeling like you're triggered all the time. And you'll have a more sovereign experience. Like, okay, I can make this life what I want it, instead of unconsciously getting pulled left and right and down because of these triggers and these frequencies that are coming up.
Mm-hmm. And what are some of the ways that you help people through that process?
So this is where the coaching comes in. I'm going to first touch on my journey to Om coaching, where I do the classes, I do the breath work. What I like about breath work is that it's helpful for people who have really never experienced what it feels like to connect to themselves. People have never experienced something larger or deeper within them. What the type of breath work that I do, I don't know if you're super familiar with breath work, but it's like a holotropic inspired breath work where you kind of over oxygenate your system, and it causes different chemical responses in your body, essentially helping you get out of your head because it shuts down your prefrontal cortex. It helps you, it's almost like shutting down your brain, and it helps you tap into your subconscious. So you oftentimes feel a lot of different emotions that are stuck in there. You might you just feel a deeper connection with your soul. Like some people have visions, some people have like words or phrases that come to them, or just intuitive guidance. And so through that, it helps people, it gives them an experience of like, okay, this is what it feels like to truly be connected to yourself when we're in a world that conditions you to disconnect from yourself. And so I do workshops and classes on just like education and inner healing. But as far as I'm also a mystical coach of oneness through Masters of Self University. And this is where we do the coaching of helping people see what's in their blind spot. And kind of like I was touching on earlier, when they're talking, when they're sharing what happened or what triggered them, it's not about just listening to the whole story. It's about feeling the energy of what they're saying and taking them deeper, having them reflect. So you, as a guide, it's not like you tell them or point out, okay, this is what's happening, this is the wound that's triggered, this is this, because otherwise they're just up in their mind, and you cannot heal from your mind. You need to be able to feel the energy of what's happening. Our mind is just sabotaging our progress with healing. It just keeps us, it keeps us safe. It keeps us completely disconnected from our heart and what we're feeling. And so as coaches, we guide you to see all your blind spots of like, you think that this is happening, you think that this is the situation's this way, but you don't realize, okay, what's deeper? And so we guide you to kind of have that revelation and then tap into the energy, tap into the connection to your own inner power, your own light. And we teach and guide people through the alchemization process of healing. So this is a big realization to me too, when I was learning this work, is that I often thought that you could just feel an emotion and it would go away, because you'd feel better, right? So I realized that the energy actually doesn't even go away. Like when people say breathe it out or let it go or just, move on, it doesn't go anywhere. It stays in your system. It's a living energy. And so when you're crying or feeling something, the energy is moving. And so it feels good because energy is temporarily moving throughout your body. And my teacher calls this translocation. So you're moving it, and so you feel good for maybe a week, but then maybe the next week you feel that same deep sadness, or somebody triggers you and you're like, oh my God, or you thought that you got over this breakup, but oh my gosh, like you see them with another person and you're like, it just comes up again. So instead of just letting go, or like breathing it out, you need to alchemize. So change the frequency of that wound, of that energy, of that feeling. And in order to change it, you need to connect to your own heart, connect to your own light, and bring love to it. And it's more than just, okay, just love yourself, because a lot of times we hear that and we don't feel very authentic about it because we don't love ourselves. And so it's really up here. You're like, oh, I just got to love myself. I just got to like love these parts of me. But it's an energetic process. It's a becoming. It's a feeling the energy and bringing it into your heart. And so that's a process that we teach people, is how to change the frequency of that energy to become more love. And it's hard to like put words to it. And it's also hard to feel what it feels like when you haven't experienced that or haven't really shown up for yourself or loved yourself your whole life. We've been taught conditional love, like we have to show up a certain way, act a certain way to be loved. And so when we're not looking a certain way or doing certain things, we don't feel like we're lovable because that's what we're being told. So it's reteaching, it's deconditioning, it's reteaching ourselves that we are this unconditional love, that we can show up and step into our power and become that for all of these parts of ourselves. And I like to use example just to give an image of like a child that's in front of you that is crying and they're really sad. And in order to heal, and in order for this child to feel good, to feel better, what would you need to be in order for this child to feel good? Would you turn away and walk away, or would you tell them to stop crying, just be happy? Probably not, because it doesn't feel right. Like, what does love feel like in that moment? So when you become love, let's say that's just sitting next to him, allowing him to feel, telling him it's okay that you feel that way. It's okay. Like everything that you're experiencing right now is exactly what it's supposed to be like. Just sitting. You don't even have to say anything. Maybe putting your hand on their leg, letting them know that you're just here to support them. And so through that, this child is able to process, to feel, and to love himself through it. And so that's love, and even taking it deeper and reflecting on how are we showing up for ourselves in that way? Are we doing that for ourselves? It's a lot easier to like paint that picture with a little child. It's like we want to love this child, but when we aren't able to fully love someone unless we're able to love ourselves, we can only meet someone to the extent that we've been able to meet ourselves. And so it's just so wild when you start reflecting on how you show up for yourself. When you start crying or feeling something, do you push it away? Do you, shut it down? Do you just try to convince yourself out of feeling something? Or just, you see that when people try to focus on the positive of like, okay, what's the positive in this situation? Like, it's invalidating their experience, and it's almost just focusing on half of the human experience. So yeah, it's a long answer to your question, but
I love it. I love all of that. I actually want to ask, how does this work feel different than the work that you were doing as a speech pathologist?
Really just getting to the root just really helping people. When you heal,
But how does it feel for you
oh, how does it feel for
as
me?
a human, and
Oh, yeah.
how the impact that you're making and fulfillment?
That's exactly it. I do feel so much more passion, so much more like I'm actually being able to help people and change their situation versus like there'd be days when I was working in the schools, the speech therapist, and I still do that in the medical setting now. And so I still feel as I'm trying to like kind of transition out of that as I grow my business. But um, where I just didn't, I felt like I just not doing anything beneficial. Like, how am I helping this person's life? And I feel like it's our energy, our attention is so valuable. Where we focus, where we put our energy is where things are going to grow, right? So if I'm sitting here trying to focus on silly therapy things when there's bigger issues at stake, um, it's really hard for me. And so now when I do this work, I feel more alive, I feel more aligned, and something bigger, something more passionate, something more that's larger than than what I was doing before.
Mm-hmm. And for the woman listening that is in a job that maybe she doesn't love and is hearing you and thinking, oh my gosh, this sounds so meaningful. What would you say to her as far as to take that leap of faith and to pursue something like this, even if it is a part-time on the side as you grow a business? But what would you say to her?
Sure. Focus and explore the energies that are keeping you in the job that you're at. So, is there a fear of the unknown? Is there a fear of failure? Is there a comfort in just the consistency? Is there a security that you need from the paycheck? So, it's not so much about just choose something different and choose something better. It's healing what is keeping you bogged down, like the frequencies. Is it the shame of thinking, okay, I can actually do something for me and not for somebody else? There's so much more energetically going on. And your soul is actually trying to tell you, hey, I think you're ready for something different. But also aligning yourself, so healing what's keeping you from truly allowing your soul to come out and to living for your soul to live aligned with your life. Because there are times where we are in a job and we're feeling not fulfilled, but it's like our programs, our wounds are kind of playing out, that if we were to heal and become more aligned with our soul, our whole job could shift and we could find so much more passion within that job. So really it comes down to doing the inner work on yourself, healing what it is that's not the real you, stepping into your power, and then you'll have so much more clarity. Yeah, there might be some scary things. Maybe you'll have this thought, okay, I need to start this job, or I need to like start this business. And yeah, there might be some fear around it, but knowing that you have your back and knowing that you can process and feel and love anything that comes up for you as you move through this journey, because a lot of times it's scary, it's there's a lot of unknown, and people are conditioned to want that safety, want that security. So really trusting your own intuition and guidance, and then knowing that you have the power to do it.
Something you said that shifted in me that I had never really thought of, because I really believe there's a lot of people doing things they don't love, and there's a lot more meaningful work that they could be doing that would bring a lot more sense of purpose and fulfillment. But there's almost a part of me that's just realized even that is putting your power outside of you if you think that your sense of peace and purpose and fulfillment is tied to the job that you do versus something that is 100% within.
Absolutely. That was, great realization. Yeah, that's true. Because the truth is we try to control, like we mentioned earlier, everything outside of us, and we want it to bring us fulfillment. We want to have that relationship that gives us all the things. But your external, it's going to be a very hard and slow process if you just try to change everything on your external to make you feel good inside. So if you first look within yourself and do the inner work and the healing and becoming that version of you that is the CEO of the big company, or whatever your passion is, or whatever you feel like you're called to do. Sometimes this life takes you through challenging situations so you can learn the skills and become the person that you need to be that will fill that job. So maybe with timing, it's not the best time right now because you might fail at that job right now. But this life will show you, and it might not feel like everything's, happy-go-lucky, every step of the way is easy, right? When something is aligned, sometimes life puts you in this because you need to learn how to speak up. You need to go through this challenging time to become more powerful or to work through certain wounds that maybe will keep you limited from what you're truly here to do. So I wouldn't say every challenging situation is like a setback or something negative. See what lesson is there for you and see how you can evolve and grow out of it.
Everything is an opportunity to learn and grow.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I could talk to you for like 3 more hours. Where can people find you?
So I have a social media's Journey to Aum, AUM. And then you could also, if you wanted to explore our coaching programs in our university at mastersofselfuniversity.com. We also have a podcast, Masters of Self University. And then I also have a website, www.journeytoaum.com. And so if you just follow my social media, I post classes, workshops, content, or reach out via email. I'd love to chat.
Thank you for this. I've so appreciated it. And any final thoughts that you want to share before we hop off?
Just go inward. I feel like when you start looking outside of yourself and trying to change things outside of you, just really grow your radical self-awareness and see what's coming up for you. Start to feel into the energies that you're bringing in the situation, and it'll start to change your life.
I love that. Well, thank you for all the time that we've spent and everything that you've shared. And I look forward to watching your journey and seeing everything that you're sharing.
Thanks, Kindra.
Bye, Madison. What parts of you have been waiting for your love and not your judgment? Madison reminds us that healing isn't about fixing what's broken. It's about remembering who we were before the world told us who to be. If this episode stirred something inside you, I encourage you to pause, go inward, and really listen to what your soul is trying to tell you. You can connect with Madison at Journey to Aum on Instagram through her website, or explore deeper work with her at Masters of Self University. And if this episode spoke to you, share it with a friend or leave a review. It helps us keep bringing these soul-stirring conversations to the women that need them the most. Until next time, keep rising, keep healing, and remember, your purpose isn't out there, it's within.